Hello, all 12th Man viewers, and welcome back to the 12th Man Tactical Hub. My name's Hugo Thaxter, and I'm the analyst that's going to be talking you through some tactics today. The three different tactics that we're going to be talking about are three defensive tactics that you could apply to your sides as you get into coaching, or if you're just looking to analyze particular matches when you're watching them. So these three different defensive tactics are the high, standard, and low defensive blocks. Now, let's kick off. Football is well and truly underway as we get back to the 2020 season, which has seen a recovery since the coronavirus and lots of different leagues around the world starting up. So that is absolutely fantastic because that means there is more to talk about, there's more opportunity to analyze matches, and specifically more time to talk to you about what I'm seeing in these different matches and how we can talk about this together as a community. So after watching the Premier League opening, the first few matches, it has been an absolutely entertaining round of fixtures for the first 3 weeks. We have seen teams such as Manchester City get absolutely dismantled by Leicester City in a score that ended 5-2, and quite frankly, Pep Guardiola's must have been really just angry with his defensive performance and his team. So this started to get me thinking about defensive tactics and what good teams do in terms of applying very good defensive tactics. We see teams such as Liverpool, who are absolutely fantastic with their defensive press, and we see other teams that maybe will sit back a little bit more and allow the other team to have more possession, but it's still effective. For example, West Brom beat Chelsea, not beat Chelsea, but drew Chelsea 3-3. So these results got me thinking about different defensive tactics that you can look for as you start to watch games and potentially as you coach your teams in the future. Like I said at the introduction of this video, these three tactics are the high, standard, and low defensive blocks. So we're going to get started here by talking about the high defensive block. So what is a high defensive block? Well, a high defensive block really means just that your team is higher up the pitch when trying to defend in order to win the ball back quickly. Now, it is a very high risk, high reward system that a lot of the top teams in European football are utilizing in order to win the ball back as close as they can to the opposition goal that they're trying to score on. On your screen is a typical example of a high block in a 4-3-3 formation. As you can see, I've chosen Liverpool against Arsenal to show you this example. The reason I picked this match is because of Liverpool's extreme ability to press Arsenal's back line in the recent match which saw Liverpool win. The 4-3-3 is a typical formation when implementing the high press due to the ability for the opponent's back line to be covered by the three forward players. So in this example, we have Sadio Mane, Roberto Firmino, and Mohamed Salah. In this diagram, we see a scenario where a player such as David Luiz or any other center back of Arsenal is containing the ball in possession. Now, Liverpool is set up in a 4-3-3 formation when the press initiates. The arrows show the movement from the forwards and the midfielders moving towards the ball to close down the space. Roberto Firmino will make sure to press the ball carrier so that he cannot pass to the other center back, and the space that is affected in the high press is highlighted in a potential green zone that I'm making up just for the sake of an example. So this is the area of the pitch that the defending team hopes to control and trap the team in possession. So Liverpool is hoping that with this defensive press, they are going to contain and win the ball back from Arsenal in this area of the pitch. Now, as you can see, I have also highlighted other zones within this diagram. The yellow zone represents the area of the pitch that the defending team is willing to give up during the high press. So for example, let's say David Luiz plays a long ball over to Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang on the left wing. That is a ball that they could potentially know is coming and that they're willing to take the risk of because they know And if that ball goes into Aubameyang, they have the likes of Trent Alexander-Arnold and Virgil van Dijk ready to win that ball. And if not, they are going to have reinforcements from the midfield pressing him immediately, again, really making that space compact. So because the player is in possession, like I said, he'll have to get rid of the ball quickly, and it is likely that he could pass it into the yellow zone. The defending team's midfield will push forward, which will create space behind them, allowing the attacking team into that area. So again, when a team presses, they do so knowing that other spaces will open up, and this is typically planned and is called a pressing trap. So just to review that, a pressing trap is what Liverpool is implementing here by doing specific movements from the forward areas in order to control that green highlighted space. Now, as you can see, there is also a red zone on the pitch. And the red zone refers to the area of the pitch that is a danger zone due to the high block. Because Liverpool's team is shifting over and really trying to compact Arsenal into that space, it leaves a lot of space on the opposite flank for a potential long ball to be played to. Typically, because a high press intends on closing down the ball carrier quickly, this is not going to happen, but it's always a risk. It's usually advised not to utilize a high block against a team whose defenders have ability to hit accurate long balls with ease. So, for example, a team may not high press or play the high block against Liverpool. Why? Because they know Andy Robertson, Virgil van Dijk, Trent Alexander-Arnold all have amazing long ball ability to get that ball to switch the pitch. Now, even in Liverpool's case here, they did a fantastic job of pressing all match. They did extremely well. However, the goal that Arsenal did score was due to this high press failing, and the ball found the red zone, it got to the flank, and that is where Arsenal opened up Liverpool by playing around the press effectively. Again, this is a high risk, high reward system, and typically the best teams in Europe are implementing the high block because it allows them to get the ball back as close as possible to the opposition's goal. So what can they do? They can score more goals and effectively win the match. The second defensive block that we're going to be discussing in this tactical analysis is the standard block. Do not be fooled by its simplistic implications, as the standard block can be incredibly complex. In an effective standard block, if one player is to lose shape, it affects the whole ecosystem of the defending side. The reason this defensive system is known as the standard block is due to its positioning on the pitch. The defensive unit is in a more standard area where the forwards are hovering just above the halfway line and the defenders are keeping a comfortable distance between them and their goal. Many managers or coaches who do not focus on defending in their tactics would consider this a basic principle, but again, while this may be true, this should not be considered a basic system. If the spacing is implemented effectively, this system can devastate even the most ruthless attacks in the world. So the diagram that you're seeing on your screen explains how the standard block can be effective and where it can be dangerous in terms of positioning and spacing on the pitch. Similar to how in the high block we saw an example of Liverpool implementing a high block, for this example, we're going to be looking at Manchester United. Now, the reason I picked Manchester United is due to a few different things, but most importantly is the formation that Ole Gunnar Solskjaer likes to play. He sets up his team in a 4-2-3-1 formation, and after watching a lot of Manchester United matches, the team does not always high press, but is not always sitting back very deep. So it is a great case study to see how the midfield and defenders can work together in order to try and control these spaces on the pitch for a standard block. So as you can see, Manchester United are set up in a balanced 4-2-3-1 formation, and the opposition team, which can be seen in possession of the ball, is going to be representing one of the opposing center backs. I don't have a specific team that Manchester United played in order to give this specific example, so just imagine whoever you want in that center back role. So when in a standard block, it's very likely that the manager is comfortable with giving the opposition time and space while the defenders are in possession. They consider this a very low threat to their defensive side. They know that if they're in their defensive shape properly, that they will not be able to beat them by just making one pass, which will unlock the entire defense. So the yellow zones represent the area of the pitch, again, that the defending team is willing to give up. So in this case, Manchester United are willing to give up these passing lanes, or actually inviting the opposition center backs to play into that passing lane. But why is this? The reason they give up these passing lanes are because they're trying to invite the opposing center backs to play the ball into, because they are stationed to apply pressure. The green zone of the pitch, which can be seen in between Bruno Fernandes, Paul Pogba, and then whoever the third midfielder is in that situation. Let's just say it's Nemanja Matic for this match. The green area of the pitch is under great control from this defensive setup. And why is that? There's two lines of midfielders creating a pentagon shape, which will make playing through the middle of the pitch incredibly difficult for the attacking team. While there is more control over the center of the pitch, it is likely that the wings will be an area of danger for the defense, and that is why I marked that with a red zone. Now, when the midfield is so compact and it's so controlled, we know that the likes of Bruno, Paul Pogba, Nemanja Matic, they can all close in that green zone very quickly. However, the red zone is then left for a danger zone. Now, this can be countered by dropping the right wing or left wing deeper, such as Marcus Rashford or Mason Greenwood, to protect that space, but that is not what a forward-thinking manager wants. The whole point of a setup in a 4-2-3-1 formation, those outside wingers are extremely dangerous. So this requires a right and left back to do a lot of very important work. And this is why you see wing backs or right and left backs becoming so important in modern day tactics. So if you're looking to set your team up in a very compact defensive shape, but still have a lot of attacking opportunity, potentially setting up in the standard block and really emphasizing that control in the middle of the pitch is your best option. So the final defensive block that will be covered in this tactical analysis will be the low block. Now, the low block is perhaps the least desirable tactic for viewers and managers, and this is typically seen by clubs with less quality. They will employ the low block system in order to try and soak up a lot of pressure and make it extremely difficult for a team, the opposition, to score against them. Now, however, there are moments in every match where even for teams with the highest quality will set up in a low block. So this tactical system occurs when the defending team is pushed right back against their own goal. Each player is on their own half and the opposing team has a ball well inside the area that they are attacking. And this creates an onslaught of attacking sequences and a difficult time for managing the match for the defending side. Even if they win back possession of the ball, they do not have much space to escape the low block that they established. So teams who are closer to their own goal are more likely to concede, and this is a fairly simple concept. As the attacking team gets closer to goal, they are more likely to score. So it is really a tactic that I wouldn't encourage you to use all the time, but it is an important tactic that your team must possess when getting into these situations where it's a must-ditch win or it's a last stand defensively. So the real key thing for a low block is all about spacing and control and moving fluidly together as a team. So on the screen, you see a 4-4-2 formation, and for this example, I wanted to pick Crystal Palace. Now, when Manchester United played Crystal Palace on the opening match of the season, Crystal Palace played an extremely good defensive match where it saw them win the match because they had the outlets of Zaha and Ayew in order to score them goals and to go on the counter-attack. However, when defending, and Manchester United did have a decent amount of possession, they had sat back into a low block and really made it hard for the likes of Bruno Fernandes to pick out those passes that he usually does in order for the front three for Manchester United to score a goal. So just like our last two, the high and standard block, we see a green zone. And again, that means the area that the defending team is controlling. So the area that they're controlling is between the two lines of defensively and the midfield. This creates huge problems because teams cannot get into that space without being closed down. It is incredibly important that you keep the shape and there is equidistance between each player. As you can see on the screen, we're going to show some different animations as these boxes, and it almost creates a grid where each player, ideally when in the right positions, is going to be the same exact distance from the left mid to the left center mid, the left mid to the left back, the left center back to the left center mid. They're all going to be, and it doesn't have to be perfect, they're all going to be somewhat the same distance away. Now, the reason for that is if a ball somehow gets into the green zone area, they have immediate control over it. All of them can come in together and they can close down the ball immediately, and really create a very difficult time for the attacking team to work it in those areas. So this is a reason that the low block is very effective. Now, there are balls that if played in from the wing, it could cause problems for the center backs, and you're usually inviting a lot of crosses in or aerial duels as you play a low block, as a team tries to potentially just get a lucky break in order to score a goal. But a team that sets up in a very organized, structured low block is going to be very, very difficult to break down. Now, this is going to invite the other team forward, and what does that do? That opens up space for your team to get in behind on the counterattack if you are to win the ball. It doesn't mean that it's always going to be defensive. Even some of the best teams, such as Atletico Madrid, they utilize this tactic, especially in big matches where they're soaking up pressure, but then boom, immediately on the counterattack, they can hit back, they have outlet players, and then they can go forward and score goals themselves. So as you look to set up your sides or you're watching matches, take a look and see, is this team in a low block, and see how difficult it is for the attacking team to break them down, such as what we saw in the opening match between Manchester United and Crystal Palace. So that concludes our 3 defensive tactical setups. Again, the high, standard, and low block. As you look to build up your teams, really start to think defensively how you're going to set up and the tactics that you will utilize. A lot of managers, a lot of coaches, analysts, they really love to focus on the attack. How do we score? Because that is effectively how we win a match. But in order to make sure that we are set up the best possible way to continue to have a lot of victories, is we want to focus on a strong defensive shape, structure, and movement. Football is a very fluid game, and it requires both sides of the ball and the transitions to be controlled in order to win a match. So I really hope you enjoyed this lesson on 3 different types of defensive tactics. Yes, this is very overarching views. You could get into a lot of specifics regarding each different zone of the pitch and how to defend within them. And this is not to say that this is the end-all be-all of defensive tactics, but this should just give you a good idea and a little bit of insight into how different teams set up in order to try and win a football match. So as always, please let us know what you think down in the comments. What do you think about my insights? Feel free to leave yours. As always, we want to create a community, the 12th Man Show and Tactical Hub, and we want to hear from you. Thank you so much for your time. If you're interested more into reading specifically, I have created an article regarding tactical theory, which will be put in the section below this video or however you're listening. So thank you very much. Please let me know what you think and have a great day.